Hollywood's most explosive issues. Casting calls, coming up next on the Discovery Times channel.
The bad guy in Hollywood. From the silver screen's early days, he's played a major role in the success of the American cinema, giving evil a human form.
In the name of Allah, I kill you all!
The reality is, good villains can mean big box office.
When you say Nazis, you pretty much know what their agenda is.
People like to watch villains because it creates drama.
But are the bad guys spreading intolerance or discrimination?
It just seems like the villains are always of some ethnicity. The Italians are always related to the mafia, and Arabs are always related to terrorists.
The fire of Allah. You know, and you're like, and the casting director's like, that was great.
Is Hollywood merely giving the public what it wants?
They no longer look at color or race. They see green. It's all about money.
Questions at the heart of casting calls.
In the name of Allah, I kill you all!
In the name of Allah, I will kill you. That's my trademark. I kill you in the name of Allah.
Actor Saeed Badrea has made a career out of playing the Arab villain.
I kill you all.
So it's hardly a stretch for him to brandish a gun on the set of his latest movie. Only now he's trying to explode the very stereotype he had a part in creating. With the help of some high-powered Hollywood friends, Peter and Bobby Fairley, who directed Something About Mary, Saeed's making T for Terrorist. The film takes the typical action movie with its stock Arab bad guy and turns it on its head.
T for Terrorist is about an Arab-American actor, sick and tired of playing a terrorist role.
It's almost the story of Saeed's own life as an actor. From Executive Decision to The Insider to Three Kings, Badrea has portrayed the cliché-ridden bad Arab.
Hi, this is Saeed. We talked like a week ago about Tony Shalhoub.
Though he's racked up an impressive list of credits, Badrea had hoped for more in Hollywood. Growing up in Egypt, he took refuge from poverty and war in theaters, watching American movies and good guy heroes like John Wayne.
I came here because the magic of cinema.
But since attending New York University Film School, he has made his bread and butter playing the Arab menace.
Every movie I held a gun. Sometime when I'm a doctor, they ask me, you want a gun? I would love one day to play like a gay guy with a gun. Like, excuse me, we'll have to hijack you. You want some coffee?
Mark!
His terrorist roles wear thin for even his most loyal audience.
My kids always, you know, told me, when are you gonna be a nice guy? And I believe a lot of roles as a terrorist, and a lot of people get bothered by that.
That's the right look. Yeah.
Badrea's kids aren't the only ones who complain, and since 9/11, those complaints have gotten worse.
In every film, you have to have good and evil. It's just that we've never let go of this bad guy, number one. And this bad guy we hate now more than we ever hated.
Dr. Jack Shaheen has been studying the portrayal of Arabs in cinema for more than 20 years.
The Arab stereotype has been with us ever since movies started cranking.
His book, Real Bad Arabs, is a catalog of about 900 of what he calls the best and worst roles depicting Arabs. Among the top offenders, Executive Decision.
What the films did were to portray all Arabs as subhuman and to portray Islam as a faith of violence, because in almost every one of these films, when a Muslim would pray, the prayers would be followed by violence. So what Hollywood has done is it's focused primarily on the lunatic fringe.
And Shaheen says Hollywood has tended to denigrate all Arab characters, even those who aren't toting guns.
I think the most damaging film ever to come out of Hollywood is Rules of Engagement, a 2001 movie showing an African-American hero, Samuel Jackson Jr., gunning down 83 Arab women, children, and men. In True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger guns down Palestinians as like they're Cupid dolls in an amusement park.
For many Muslims, films like The Siege, which seem to equate their faith with violence, are more chilling.
There will never be a last film.
I worry about my children not because they are growing in an American society. I worry about them because of the stereotypes that are being filtered by certain groups like the media and so on. What it reflects is a lot of culture insensitivity.
Alma Jadala, Palestinian by birth, is a mother of 3 in Northern Virginia.
These stereotypes may tend to reinforce you being excluded, whether on the conscious or subconscious level.
Executives in Hollywood say they're not creating or reinforcing stereotypes. They're just looking for stories and characters that will sell. Frequently, that means feeding off of current events and the country's mood.
I don't think it is unreasonable after 9/11 to suggest that if there was a group with an atomic bomb, loose in the United States, would be an Arab terrorist group from overseas. I mean, it doesn't matter what's in the newspapers. So there's a desire to be relevant.
They're definitely going to have parallels with what's happening in the real world, but we take the situations and the stories that we think are interesting to write and hopefully to watch and push them as far as we can.
Playing off the news has helped turn the TV series 24 into a hit. But featuring Arab terrorist characters has generated criticism that the show's creators are exploiting a harmful stereotype.
Interests that want the United States to go to war with the Middle East.
There are villains of all, colors, creeds, races, nationalities, whatever out there. To say that you can't ever tell a story where a villain is like some of the villains are in real life is, to me, crazy. That's not the world we live in. Those aren't the stories people want to hear.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Have fun with it.
Saeed Badrea accepts this reality for now, and he says complaints or protests alone won't change how Arabs are portrayed on screen.
You don't fight the system in Hollywood. You become part of the system, so you can change it from inside.
Scene 3, Charlie, take 2. Mark.
In his latest project, Badrea is acting and producing.
Abdul, you need to be more aggressive.
Working to change the prevailing image of the Arab by pushing it to an extreme for comic effect.
Show me anger. No.
Saeed plays a frustrated Arab actor who reaches his breaking point after a director drives him too hard.
Show me hate. Now, can you do that for me?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess.
No! Do not guess! Do it!
I do it, I'm sorry. I thought the idea of 5-6 years ago, while I was playing in a movie, Executive Decision, and I was one of the hijacker, and I had the gun, and I was inside doing the scene, and I thought, why not become the hero and let the American guy be the terrorist?
It's a plot twist that flies in the face of a century of cinema stereotypes. That history when we return. The year is 1915. The Birth of a Nation unspools at the cinema. One of the first full-length silent films ever made, it depicts the Ku Klux Klan's rise in the South following the Civil War, as they do battle against vicious and recently freed African-American slaves. Today, director D.W. Griffith's controversial 3-hour epic is seen as helping give birth to racist stereotypes in Hollywood.
There he depicted slaves in a way that would make you cringe today if you saw it. And in fact, when they play it, people do almost literally cringe.
When it was released, The Birth of a Nation was projecting on screen deep-seated fears that had long divided America.
You go back to Birth of a Nation, which is basically about a black man about to sort of touch a white woman. And that's what it comes down to still. It's a real literal fear of blood mixing. And that's where stereotypes come from, this threat to the pale American skin that scares everybody still. The most frightening creatures in movies, when they weren't King Kong, were always dark-skinned people, be they Africans or Arabs.
The silent movie The Sheik was one of the first to portray Arabs as mysterious, oversexed, and dangerous.
If you were an Arab, you were some scary person who spouted some babble that wasn't understandable, and you were probably violent.
Native Americans were one of the group's most often typecast, like in 1923's The Covered Wagon.
If you were a Native American, you were violent and prone to try to steal land and want to rape white women.
Cartoons of the era helped reinforce racial stereotypes.
If you were a black person, you were lazy and shiftless.
African Americans were also portrayed as docile and childlike. These images leapt out from the screen, even in the most popular films, including Gone with the Wind.
I don't know nothing about births and babies.
What do you mean?
If that's not promoting stereotypes still and a certain kind of American hegemony, I don't know what is.
The tradition is very strong. And part of the problem is, if I were to indict Hollywood, it would be for being lazy or for taking the easy way out or perpetuating bad habits. For a long time, since Birth of a Nation, is the movie, stereotyping has been used to control the population to a great extent.
The current treatment of Arabs on screen resembles the way the Japanese were portrayed during World War II.
My name's Joe Tatsuiko.
In films like Across the Pacific.
Sure glad there's someone around that speaks my language.
And again in cartoons of the time.
General Hama demonstrates coolness and calmness of a Japanese officer during air raid.
The greatest double cross in history. Our great Pacific outpost in the Hawaiian Islands is ruthlessly bombed.
The bombing of Pearl Harbor was to the Japanese what the terrorist attacks of September 11 were to the Arabs, a traumatic event that transformed them into the ultimate villain.
Death and destruction unleashed on a nation at peace as Japan's perfidious declaration of war.
During a time of conflict, we demonize the enemy, and Hollywood helps us in that way and also hurts us. It's a very natural thing.
But when you got Germans who speak military German, is very harsh and guttural, you know. And it's easy to say that's a bad guy. You go a lot of hawking and spitting, you know. And the Japanese the same way, you know.
The horror in newsreels soon gave birth to despicable big-screen enemies, as in 1943's Baton.
A war is not a time when you see a lot of shades of gray. Things are done in kind of stark contrast because people, if they're to sacrifice their lives, need to have kind of good and evil delineated for them in a very clear way.
The problem with that is, how do you then turn it around? How do we then come to terms with the fact that they're really human beings? How do you get over that kind of rabid hatred?
And throughout World War II, popular films helped brand all Japanese, including those living in the U.S., as the enemy. In an atmosphere of fear and suspicion, even those who were American citizens were rounded up and placed in internment camps. award-winning artist Denise Uehara connects the internment of Japanese Americans to the ways popular culture of the time depicted them.
I think the images in the media and in film leading up to the 1940s created an image of the Asian person as being, you know, the suspicious. And that wasn't really the reality. People were very hardworking and loyal to the United States.
Her findings inspired a performance piece called Big Head.
5 of the youths began to assault Sandeep and his family. Sandeep's wife screamed, "Why are you hitting us?" One of the girls answered, "They're gonna get you, Middle Easterners."
It compares the current treatment of Arab Americans to the stories she heard as a child about living in camps during World War II.
For my grandparents and older relatives, it was a really harsh thing that happened. And my grandmother would always say, "I'm going to tell you about this because I never want this to happen again." On September 11th, on that morning, I remember what an Arab American man had said to me, which is, "They interned your people all at once, and they're interning ours one by one." So I think what we're seeing right now in the media, it's so blown out of proportion, and it's inaccurate. And I think that there are so many other facets to Arab American and Muslim life that aren't being portrayed. That kind of stuff feeds hysteria.
Yet not everybody in Hollywood believes their industry wields such power. As far as Lionel Chetwynd is concerned, the industry shouldn't be held accountable.
Nobody, not the audience, not those of us that are involved in making it, or those who are involved in observing it, should pay too much attention to how we depict anyone, or to what we depict, or what our opinions are. I think it's really important that the American people and everybody understand that Hollywood is essentially a commercial enterprise.
There's a little bit of truth in every stereotype. Ethnic groups have individual characteristics. They just do. And to pretend that they don't is silly. To harp on the same ones all the time is boring and probably hurtful to the people in that group, because it doesn't show them as a whole.
Often, the marketplace itself helps eliminate the ethnic stereotypes. When they're overused, they become boring. Or with the passage of time, attitudes change. Native Americans have gone from the savage redskins to sage ecologists in Little Big Man.
There is an endless supply of white men, but there always has been a limited number of human beings.
And Good Samaritans in Dances with Wolves. And the stereotypical Italian mobsters of Little Caesar have evolved into the more complex, conflicted characters in the Corleone family.
And my father assured him that either his brains or his signature would be on the contract. That's my family, kid. It's not me.
Even the evil Russians have evolved on screen.
We've had the Russians, of course, during the Cold War. They were perfect villains. If you saw Rocky IV, you know what I'm talking about. I must break you. There, the hero, Sylvester Stallone, is up against the huge Russian who dwarfs him. And the Russian, at one point in the movie, is attached to machines because he's a kind of extension of the machine. He's just this brute force, and we're supposed to identify with the human up against this, you know, undefeatable, indefatigable giant. Now it would be kind of ludicrous to have a Russian as a villain.
About the only villainous stereotype frozen in time is the Nazi.
Well, I can be reasonable.
That time is past.
Still going strong in the 1981 action-adventure Raiders of the Lost Ark and numerous other movies since.
Nazis have always been the universal villain.
I know you will.
When you say Nazis, you pretty much know what their agenda is.
Scene 10, Quail, take one.
Saeed Badrea doesn't want Arabs to get stuck in Hollywood's time machine, eternally playing the villains. Taking a cue from other actors and directors, he's telling his own story. For Badrea and actor Tony Shalhoub, best known for his work in the TV shows Wings and Monk, T for Terrorists is a labor of conviction, one they hope will point the way for more realistic roles for Arab Americans.
Arab American actors just haven't really had a voice, haven't really, made their mark yet. There's been a real problem with profiling and stereotyping images of Arabs in television and film, certainly. And so, we're all trying to unravel those images.
When we come back, staring down the Arab stereotype and turning it on its head.
You're watching the Discovery Times Channel.
All these CDs have to go, so we're giving them away. That's right, we've got so many CDs in our warehouse, we're running out of room. So we're giving them away free. These CDs, they do it all. They're top-of-the-line editions of brand-name software. Home Depot, Britannica, Rand McNally, and the American Medical Association, just to name a few. Names you know, names you trust, and you get them free. Video Professor partnered with these companies, and we have thousands of their CDs. But now we desperately need to make room, so call now, and we'll send you a pack of these new CDs free. Just pay the $6.95 shipping and we'll send you $100 in great name software. What do these CDs do? What don't they do? But try this for starters. Learn secrets of the Home Depot pros, wallpapering, plumbing, carpentry, tile, insulation, and more. Then create your own home on your PC, add walls, carpets, a new addition, and see it in a 3D walkthrough. But that's not all. Create printable maps of anywhere in North America and try restaurants, hotels, and sightseeing stops along the way. Remember, this is free. How about researching almost anything in seconds? History, maps, nature, science, geography, trivia, and more. You get an encyclopedia of knowledge free when you call. Want more? How about free medical help 24 hours a day? Health information, medical emergencies, CPR, drug facts, burns, fractures, cuts, bruises, and essential information for any family. And we're giving it away. It's not priced to sell because there is no price. We'll give you the CDs, you pay for the shipping, and they're yours. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? Pick up the phone to make sure you don't miss out. We need the space, you want the CDs, and you get them for free. Everyone's a winner. And if you call right now, we'll throw in a great $30 typing tutorial CD absolutely free. That makes almost $150 worth of software free with one free call. Don't wait, these CDs will go fast.
To take advantage of this limited time offer and get your free software pack, you must call now. Call 1-800-478-3130.
On the next Trading Spaces family.
Hit it!
They've got instruments. Okay. They've got attitude.
We're good. We're very good.
And they've got Carter, the juggling carpenter. But they've only got 2 days to show off all their moves.
Hands to the wall. Hands to the wall. And start a working.
Work it out, guys. Work it out.
If you want to trade spaces, you've got to learn the steps. Trading Spaces Family. Sunday at 7, only on TLC.
Thursday at 8, Paul McCartney and John Lennon, two friends from Liverpool who changed the course of popular culture as well as popular music.
I don't think we did it. I think we were spokesmen for a lot of people. I think we were lucky to be placed at the right point in time when our generation was finding its feet.
Join me, David Frost, for In Their Own Words, Paul McCartney and John Lennon. Thursday at 8 on Discovery Times channel.
You don't have to fill a room with stereo equipment to fill it with great sound. All you need is the Bose Acoustic Wave music system, the small stereo with the big, bold sound. The Acoustic Wave music system uses patented waveguide speaker technology to deliver rich, room-filling sound from a small, simple-to-use system. With built-in CD player, AM/FM tuner, and handy remote, you just plug it in and enjoy clear, lifelike sound. Order right now, and Bose will include this custom pedestal that allows you to easily connect your acoustic wave system to your TV, VCR, and more. The pedestal is a $150 value. Yours free if you order today. Shipped right to your door, you'll have 30 days to experience its award-winning sound in your own home, risk-free. Call this 800 number to order right now, and Bose will waive shipping charges. Be sure to ask about our interest-free installment plan. And enjoy big, bold sound from one small music system, the Acoustic Wave Music System.
Weeknights at 10 on the Discovery Times channel. Go inside the newsroom with Page One, your exclusive preview of the next day's New York Times, hosted by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Cheryl Wudunn.
Join me for Page One every night at 10, only on Discovery Times channel.
Mark. And action.
I'm taking over your set.
Over my dead body.
Fine with me.
This scene has played out so many times on screen, it has become a cliche. A gun-wielding Middle Eastern fanatic terrorizes a group of innocent people.
You! Lock the door.
But on the set of Saeed Badrea's T for Terrorist, it's being played for ironic effect.
So, what do you want? Well, we'll finish making this movie.
As a filmmaker, Arabic-American filmmaker, my weapon is the camera. My weapon is the image. I am the storyteller. And instead of putting a gun in your head to listen to my story, I'm gonna tell it to you.
Tony bends down and washes his hands, right?
And Badrea's story is simple. After years of playing the bad guy, he's trying to take Hollywood's favorite one-dimensional portrait of evil and turn it upside down.
And then he comes back into this mirror. Yeah. Into this mirror?
No, into the same mirror again.
His character in T for Terrorist has an epiphany when an angel, played by Tony Shalhoub, pays a visit to him in a washroom.
But I was sent here to give you some advice. You need to stand up for yourself once in a while. And this, my friend, is one of those times.
Other Arab American actors are trying to make a change too. Kamal Mariotti is a 39-year-old actor who is reluctant to play the cliched bad guy. One of about 3 million Arab Americans, he came here from Iraq when he was a year old.
So I identify more with being an American than being an Iraqi. You know, I grew up in, as liking football and the Sun Devils and the Packers and the Phoenix Suns and apple pie and hot dogs.
Have fun storming the castle.
Okay, tonight, real fast, hello, goodbye type deal, dog, okay?
In auditions for TV shows, he's often asked to act out stereotypical Arab characters.
Okay, let me do the accent, because this is not making... Paranoia. Yeah, Osama Paranoia. Let me do it. All brothers crazy right now. I can't do that. All brothers crazy right now. It was just kind of absurd, because I would get scripts and it would say, the terrorist #1, says the fire of Allah. And you'd look at it and you're like, what? As a Muslim, you're like, fire of what? No Muslim ever says that. But you got to go in and you got to be serious about it. So you have to, you have to go in and, you have fun with it too, So you kind of go in and you say, the fire of Allah. And you're like, and the casting director's like, that was great. And you're like, yeah, maybe for you. So I don't know what's going on. I'm at a bar. I'm outside the bar, thank God, because I'm a Muslim. I can't be inside the bar. But after 9/11, it's actually gotten a little bit better. I mean, as far as script writing, because I think the writers are doing their homework a little bit more. I see.
On this day, Mariotti is reading for a new series based on the Homeland Security Department.
This has to do with the plot, and the plot is 9/11, and I'm going to be the bad guy surrounding that circumstance. So, on one level, it's great to play, the bad guy, because every actor loves to do that, but at the same time, it's projecting that negative image that we don't need to see right now. I'm trying to fight these stereotypes on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm trying to get the part.
He eventually lands a different role, that of an American detained wrongfully because of his Arabic origin.
Where's the train?
Grateful for the part, he's still frustrated by the one-dimensional characters that dominate television and film, and how they reflect so little of the Arab American experience.
We haven't told our story, and I think ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to tell our side of the story, but you know, they haven't even heard our story. So and there are many stories to tell.
That's what's so interesting about all the ethnic world. Unexplored stories that are really human stories that don't get told, you know.
For many Arab Americans in the audience, the stories that do make it to the screen can be painful to watch.
It's not a good thing, because that's a lot of like stereotyping, and especially with like September 11th, I think that made it a lot worse too, and made it easier to have people have that stereotype.
Layla and Diala Jadala are 18-year-old twins from Northern Virginia. Palestinian by heritage, they've lived here since they were toddlers.
Our friends know that we're not like that, and that's not everyone, like, and that's not even a majority of Arab people. That's like a small few who just are like that.
I came with Amtona Hill in 1962.
Sami Jadala, who is the twins' father, doesn't like the negative portrayals of Arab Americans he sees in the media.
For me, it's, especially as a veteran, you know, who have served in the military, I take a great offense to it, and I don't take it lightly. I'm very angry about it. I would like to see the media portray the Palestinians as doctors and lawyers and scientists and people who may have certain ambitions in life other than just to die at a very young age with a bullet in their head.
Is that him right there?
Yet for all his frustration, he acknowledges that there is a connection between being stereotyped and being a newcomer to America.
So the thing about it, unfortunately, is that we always need to have a villain. You know, there's always the good guy and the bad guy, just like in the cowboy movie. To me, this is a price that we have to pay. It's part of, let's say, perhaps being incorporated into the mainstream America, that for so many years you have to be a stereotype and you have to look foolish or stupid, whatever, okay? But this is the price to pay.
And according to some, to make that turn into the mainstream, you have to take more of an active role in American society and Hollywood.
As Arab Americans, I think we should take part of the blame, because for a long time we felt like we shouldn't get involved, you know, that we shouldn't, you know, we can go to the mosque, we can do our prayers, we can, you know, and just don't bother anybody and they won't bother us. And so I think that's why we find ourselves in this situation, is because we didn't get involved.
Are we ready? Okay.
Saeed Badrea is taking matters into his own hands.
Okay.
In this pivotal scene, he turns the tables on Hollywood.
And you be the terrorist. I be the hero.
We need makeup and wardrobe. And sound, get him mic'd. Come on, let's move, people. We're on schedule here.
Next, how the bottom line makes or breaks stereotypes on screen. A busy night at the local movie theater. Many of these people come to the movies to see a dramatic struggle between good and evil. And often, it's the bad guys who are most memorable.
The die-hard villains are always great.
The Joker from Batman.
Christopher Walken is a great bad guy.
It was a bunch of Arabs who were trying to blow up a nuclear weapon in the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And great bad guys can mean great box office. Hollywood studios know this well. The list of biggest money-making films of all time worldwide contains a murderous row of evildoers, from Darth Vader and space aliens to sorcerers and dark lords. When villains take a human form, those caricatures of evil can touch the audience all too deeply.
Everybody gets a stereotype from the movies.
You see and hear a message over and over again that depicts someone or a group of people in a certain way. That image is invariably going to be ingrained in your head and in your mind.
Kids do pay a lot of attention to movies, and it kind of puts an initial reaction to certain people in their mind when they're constantly exposed to them as a certain character in movies.
Where did you get the fax?
I got it day before yesterday. Somebody from a casting company called us. They needed help finding people who look Middle Eastern to fit the parts.
Do you know if anybody
One group concerned with the effects of stereotyping on the public psyche is CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations.
Well, I strongly think we should put a lot of effort in getting a copy of the script.
For the past decade, CARE has lobbied film producers and TV networks for a more balanced version of Arabs and Muslims.
Do you know anything about it, about the content, the theme of the...
They've even protested films they find offensive, like True Lies and The Siege.
The objective is to have Hollywood, and therefore the rest of the country, the rest of the viewers, the public, perceive Muslims as the average person on the street, the average person living in the community, not necessarily the hero, not necessarily the villain. Muslims come in all shapes and forms.
One film CARE targeted recently was The Sum of All Fears, based on Tom Clancy's novel. An Arab terrorist was one of the book's key villains. CARE appealed to the filmmakers while the movie was in pre-production.
They were very courteous to let us know that basically they decided to change the villains or the ethnicity and the religious background of the villains in the movie and took it away from being a Muslim. And that was a certain success for the Muslims, and without challenging the story itself, without challenging their artistic creativity.
To CARE, it was a victory, but the creators say the change wasn't made in response to its pleadings. The scriptwriter says the decision to change the ethnic identity of the villains to Nazis was a creative one.
I think if the question is, why not Arab terrorists? Possibly because that has become a cliche. At the time that I started writing The Sum of All Fears, Jürgen Haider was just starting to come into play in Austria. And simultaneous with that, I think there was some neo-nationalist activity in Holland, and there was stuff going on in Spain and in Italy. So it seemed like a logical and lasting idea that that would be universal.
There was another reason to change the characters, maximizing the film's box office potential.
I think studios like things to be less complicated in a perfect world. The studio's tendency, based upon their audience research and their testing, is a simpler, more direct story will work.
Eventually, The Sum of All Fears would earn almost $150 million worldwide. Stereotypes, a kind of cinema shorthand, also provide filmmakers with a useful tool.
Shorthand gives you an opportunity to save the time that you would have to use explaining why that particular person is doing what they're doing.
What's happening? Accident, stay cool.
One recent film managed both to make money and fight the stereotype. Three Kings presented Arabs in a more realistic setting, in their own country, against the backdrop of the First Gulf War.
That's a movie where the entire thrust and theme of the movie is one that's intended to break down those barriers and make you think of the Iraqis, you know, as people.
Three Kings made a respectable $120 million at the box office, with international ticket sales just beating out domestic. In 2002, international box office returns for the studios climbed 20% over the year before, with more than half the global receipts coming from Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. To movie makers who look at the bottom line, these figures suggest that stereotyping may become bad for business.
When I started in the entertainment industry, in distribution, we reckoned that 30%, 70% of our income came from what was called domestic, U.S. and Canada, 30% came from international. I believe that's now totally reversed.
In those days when selling movies overseas wasn't such a big deal, and then movies were kind of an American cultural stronghold, we didn't care so much about who we insulted in movies.
16's coming to the right side, enjoy your show.
While ethnic stereotyping may become a liability for movies, television is a very different animal. Shows like 24 are made much faster and often rely on current events for their storylines, no matter how controversial.
Of course, you are influenced by what happens in the real world, but we just try to think of situations that give fertile ground for twists and turns and for putting characters in dilemmas and situations which are very crucible-like and will test them to the limit.
Nobody's sort of setting out there specifically to show Middle Eastern characters, but what is happening is that the writers are writing, again, what is happening in our society.
NBC's Sonia Nikor, who runs casting for the network, says TV producers are attempting to create more nuanced characters.
We're veering away from the stereotypes and from the token characters that used to be written a few years ago, and the writers are getting more informed and clearly are writing more three-dimensional ethnic characters.
One TV series that is exploring ethnic characters on a deeper level is The Sopranos. Its inspiration is controversial to some.
Like it or not, and some people don't like it, but organized crime happens to be one of the cultural facts about Italian-American society.
David Chase is the creator of the hit HBO series. He's often criticized for perpetuating the Italian gangster character. He's even been sued.
People say, why can't you do the Chinese mob? Why can't you do the Russian mob? Why can't you do black drug dealers? And as of yet, Americans aren't that interested in that. They're interested in Italian-American mob.
When we come back, killing stereotypes with humor and future hopes for Arab Americans in Hollywood.
You're watching the Discovery Times Channel.
This summer, take it to the limit. Put the pedal to the metal. GM presents Summer Drive 2. Up to $4,000 cash back. Or 0% APR. Maybe we've gone too far. Summer Drive 2, the max.
When is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When you're more than 20 pounds overweight and tired of wasting money on one ordinary diet pill after another, and every diet plan has failed. Now there's Leptoprin.
Specifically developed for the significantly overweight, backed by 2 United States patents, 2 published clinical trials, and an ironclad 100% money-back guarantee. Leptoprin is simply the most powerful, clinically proven weight control compound available, period.
I've gone from 203 pounds down to 153 pounds. I went from a size 18 down to a size 7 dress. If you had told me that I would have dropped 50 pounds, I would never have believed it, and now look at me.
If you're one of those people who constantly worry about 5 or 6 vanity pounds, Leptoprin is not for you. Leptoprin is much too expensive and much too powerful for the casual dieter. But if you're one of the millions of Americans who are 20, 30, 50 pounds or more overweight, you need Leptoprin.
You don't have to be fat. 8 months ago, I wore these pants at 404 pounds. I've lost 147 pounds. I'm actually going to frame these pants and put them on my wall. I am.
I'm currently down to 175. My husband was floored. He was amazed.
So if you're significantly overweight, there's only one weight control compound developed specifically for you. It's Leptoprin. Leptoprin is guaranteed to work for you, or it costs you absolutely nothing. So when is a diet pill worth $153 a bottle? When it works, really works.
Call toll-free 1-800-417-1657 to order your risk-free supply of Leptoprin. That's 1-800-417-1657 right now.
It's like you're a new person.
It's been an amazing journey.
It works.
I began losing my hair about a year ago. Is it ever gonna stop?
What causes it to fall out anyway? Let's say I'm ready to do something about my hair loss. What are my options?
Why me?
It's hard to know what to do when you start losing your hair. That's where Bosley Medical comes in. For over 25 years, people have turned to us for answers to their questions about hair loss and hair restoration.
So what is natural hair restoration? Where does the hair come from? Is it permanent?
Does the hair actually grow?
To find out, just call this toll-free number. We'll send you this free video and comprehensive guidebook that give you the real facts about hair loss and the choices you have for dealing with it. Financing is available, so call now and discover how Bosley Medical has advanced the science of natural hair restoration, how they use your own living hair to fill in the thin spots. You'll also meet people who were once losing their hair and see what they looked like then and now.
But here's the big question. Do you think my barber will remember me?
Learn about all your options. Call now and get the information you need to determine if hair restoration is right for you.
Weeknights at 10 on the Discovery Times channel. Go inside the newsroom with Page One, your exclusive preview of the next day's New York Times, hosted by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Cheryl Wudunn.
Join me for Page One every night at 10, only on Discovery Times channel.
Mark. In Tea for Terrorists, Saeed Badrea's fantasy comes true. He gets to be the hero, vanquish the terrorist, and he gets the girl.
Checking the gate.
I get the girl. I get the girl. I thought with time I have to produce to get the girl.
But winning the blonde isn't the only way to topple a decades-old Arab stereotype. Meet Ahmed Ahmed. Born in Egypt, he grew up around Los Angeles.
I went in on the Bungalow 5.
As an actor, he ended up landing only cliched bad Arab parts.
And little Ahmed, do you want to read for
Oh, you're kidding.
She goes, would you mind sticking around and reading for little Ahmed? I said.
And his career hit a wall.
So in a way, you sort of shoot yourself in the foot by continuing to play these roles, because casting people only see you as that. So this thing that I went in on yesterday, the Homeland Security, all of them are guys from the Middle East that have some sort of shady, past. I'm just curious, are there any roles out there that you've seen in the breakdowns for the guy who just happens to have brown hair?
Ahmed has come up with a way out of his dilemma.
Funny all the way from Cairo, Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, Ahmed Ahmed.
He's now a stand-up comedian.
With comedy, there aren't any rules. It's freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. There's no director, writer, producer. You're your own one-man show. Well, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name really is Ahmed Ahmed. Yeah.
Like others who've been typecast, Ahmed hopes to gain acceptance through humor.
Bad time to be named Ahmed these days. Before September 11th, a lot of the material, like I said, was like, hey, I'm Arab, check me out. And then after September 11th, I was like, hey, I'm Arab, don't shoot, I get to the airport a month and a half before my flight. I think through comedy, people can become enlightened. The security's gotten so bad, now I just show up in a G-string. I'm like, hey, how you guys doing? What's that? Turn around. No problem. You got it.
Ahmed's embrace of comedy has given him hope that Hollywood is a place where things can change.
Hey, you guys have been a lot of fun. Enjoy the rest of the show. Good night. What I realized in Hollywood is once a project starts to make money, they no longer look at color or race. They see green. It's all about money at that point.
No one knows this better than Nia Vardalos, who translated her comedy routine about her ethnic heritage into My Big Fat Greek Wedding. The 2002 sleeper hit made more than $225 million at the U.S. box office, making it the 5th most popular film of the year. What made the film successful was that the immigrant family with its colorful relatives struck a chord in American hearts.
If you were trying to move an ethnic group into the mainstream, family drama family drama or comedy would be the way to do it. If you had the right mix of comedy and drama, if you had that mix, I think you can't go wrong if you're in these really bedrock relationships. My mother was very dour, pessimistic, paranoid, and very, very funny. If I did a show about myself, a TV producer, and his overbearing mother, people would say, oh, you mama's boy. But then it morphed into Tony Soprano and his mother, because a gangster wouldn't be perceived as such a crybaby.
The whole point is you identify, you empathize with that character, and you say, person's not so different than me, really.
Okay, roll the camera. Scene 12, take 1. Action, sir.
Saeed Badrea hopes Arab Americans can follow a similar course.
We have a lot of story to tell and make a lot of money, but we have to tell it. The American filmmaker will not make a good film about Sadat. I will not make a good film about Kennedy. So We say an Arabic word, leaves the bread to the baker. He can make it better. And someday we might tell a better story.
For Badrea, there's a measure of consolation in knowing the roles are reversed in the Arab world, where it's the American who is often stereotyped in movies such as the Egyptian hit Hello, America. It highlights the adventures of a couple who visit the U.S. and are shocked by what they learn of American values.
The American wife trying to dress Adila in American fashions. But, you know, she's uncomfortable with this. And, of course, what's going to come out instantly is, you know, if you really want protection, you don't need a man, you need a pistol.
Just as cinema stereotypes can influence audiences in this country, they exert the same power internationally, too.
We're a violent society. We're materialistic. We can appear to be a very sexually amoral society, sometimes immoral. It can only reinforce that, and, you know, give people a sense that, you know, what they are seeing is in fact real.
What is this? It's a script I wrote, and I know it needs a lot of work, but...
Saeed Badrea believes that portrayals of Arabs will improve, but only over time.
This is unbelievable. I never imagined in my life something like this will happen to me.
At the close of T for Terrorist, even his character's transformation turns out to be an illusion.
Get your ass out there before I have your part recast faster than you can say shish kebab.
In the end, it's a dream. T for Terrorist is a dream. He come back and he still have to deal with what is going on, and he have to put the beard on and shout, in the name of Allah, I will kill you all. So we left a message that dream is possible, but you have to work for it, and you have to work hard, and you have to be determined 100%. If not, you're not going to be able to do it.
Ironically, the events of 9/11 may help rehabilitate the long-suffering image of Arabs on screen and force Hollywood to consider more complex portrayals of Arabs in the future.
You can't make a movie that says Arabs are villains anymore because it's too simplistic even for Hollywood. That just cannot be done anymore.
Other ethnic groups have fought the same battles as Arab Americans and succeeded, making Hollywood more diverse. Yet the Arab struggle for acceptance underscores an age-old question. Do movies shape public opinion, or does public opinion shape the movies?
The power of movies and television and the media in general is awesome. It's just overwhelming. It can really help shape what you think because it's your source of information. So it's power that should be used wisely.
Stay tuned for Page One, your first look at the front page of tomorrow's New York Times. Then, go inside the Colombian cartel and come face to face with the notorious Pablo Escobar, king of cocaine. Next on the Discovery Times channel.